Welcome back to NeuroDiverse Christian Couples. I'm Stephanie.
Hi there, I'm Dan.
And this is one, listeners, you might want to go to our YouTube and see the YouTube footage that will be from the podcast, because we're kind of filming or recording from a different location, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But in our book, Uniquely Us, I use the phrase "a tale of two marriages," which has really resonated with a lot of the readers. And I take "Tale of Two Marriages," of course, from "A Tale of Two Cities." And I say it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And we had two marriages. Dan's marriage was going pretty okay, and mine was not. So we're going to talk today about the tale of two marriages, and then how we've kind of morphed into, in our unique selves and our unique marriage, shared experience, which is here in Oregon, completing the 50-state quest. But we'll get there in a moment. So Dan, you wanted to do this topic. You said, let's do something about the tale of two marriages. So I'm going to send it to you.
All right. Well, I'll catch it. That's corny.
Yep.
I don't remember. I wish I did. I don't remember the conversation we were having that sparked this idea. But what's turned out to be kind of the aha for this idea on the podcast was that when we say a tale of two marriages, we don't mean sameness.
Right.
We don't mean that, okay, everybody now believes, acts, thinks the same way.
Correct.
We don't, we're not going to, no two people ever do that, nor do we think that that's going to be true in a neurodiverse marriage or any marriage for that matter. So what was interesting is that juxtaposition of two people coming to unity, maintaining their uniqueness. And, in the book, you said we use that phrase, a tale of two marriages. The book is called Uniquely Us. And what I don't want to get lost in that idea is there's still two uniquely yous.
Right. There's still two people, two neurotypes. Yeah. Yeah. And so each neurodiverse Christian couple is going to look different because of the two unique people that make up that uniquely us.
Right. And so when you think about what does that mean to go to coaching, go to counseling, go to whatever thing that helps you grow into a better, a different, a new, it isn't well, let's take all of this you and put it way over there and create a new you out of it. It is, let's take the you that's already there and refine it. It's got a very much the refiner's fire idea out of what is that, Isaiah maybe. But it's very much honing who you are, not replacing who you are.
Yeah. I don't know if we've mentioned it on a podcast or we just say it a lot in our classes, but Dr. Gottman said that couples in general, so he wasn't being specific to you neurodiverse couples or neurotypical, but it was either 68 or 69% of issues that a couple goes through are not going to be resolved. And if you spend your marriage coaching work trying to just hit these issues and keep talking about them and talking about them and talking about them until two people reach the same perspective or see it from the same viewpoint, that's not possible. And you're wasting a lot of time just in talk therapy trying to resolve old hurts, old wounds. That each marriage is going to continue to have kind of certain things, that they're going to struggle with. It's how do you treat each other and love each other with those struggles? Like, what are your non-negotiables, so to speak, right. And what are action points and strategies that you're going to use to move forward, knowing that there might be some things that are kind of a part of our couplehood. And so we know that specifically for the neurodiverse couples that we work with, yes, there are some repeated patterns that, two different neurotypes are just not going to ever see a situation or perspective oftentimes from the same viewpoint. So what do you do?
And let's take something simple. An example. Something simple that's still real for us is we'll go to dinner and we'll have a drink or something, and mine will take an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And yours will take 20 seconds. That has been true
forever.
Right. So that's an example of something that's just who we are.
Which is interesting because you eat like a vacuum You eat and shovel in fastest of anyone I've ever seen. You've slowed it down, but you will take forever to get through a glass of something. And it's like, oh my goodness, we cannot stay here for another 2 hours while you finish that.
But that's a good example. There's other examples like when it's time to go. Mm-hmm. That's another example of the two of us are just very different in that aspect. And early on, we probably tried to fashion each other into our own form. Mm-hmm. Now we're to the point that that's just true. Mm-hmm. And it's not something, there's moments that the one or the two of us is more willing to say, all right, in this particular instance, I don't really care that more, but I'm not necessarily saying I'm giving up my perspective.
Right.
But as a general rule, you're going to want to be there early, and I'm going to be there exactly when I mean to be there. Right.
We call Dan Dandoff.
Right. From the movie. But that's just
Dan arrives exactly when he means to.
But that's just another example of we've accepted that as true and not let it turn into contention.
Which means sometimes we have to take 2 cars, or sometimes you have to be a little bit ready to go with me.
Or sometimes I have to hurry up.
Right.
And just say, all right, well, there's no harm in leaving right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it like some kind of game thing you do? Like if church starts at 10, like just walking in at 10 means you win because you got as close to 10 as possible without going over, like the Price is Right?
It's really more just like when I feel like it.
Oh, okay. I've been trying to still figure that one out for 30 years.
Some days it's all right, let's just get there 15 minutes early. And some days it's like, I'd rather not.
So, Dan's been on the stage. You're a musician at the church. So for many years, we haven't even been in the same car anyway, because he has to be there.
Probably been the first year we've ever gone to church together.
Right. But that, when it was before and I had the girls, we do have one ADHD one who trying to get her out the door on time. Our other daughter believes being on time is like being an hour early. So there's a lot of different things trying to get everybody's neurotype and get to church somewhere in resemblance of time is, but those are kind of the things that can be frustrating, but usually people's time temperaments and things like that aren't going to change. It's what do we do relationally? So if I'm the more prompt to want to be early, do I berate and force and put you down for not wanting to do that? Or if you're like, no, and arrive just on time, are you going to berate and degrade me because I want to be early? It's, kind of accepting some of those things. And then, okay, what if we are trying to work on, let's say maybe someone in ADHD is trying to work on being on time. Okay. So we can help with strategies and solutions, but it's still not going to be that person's natural bent.
Right.
How they view time and where they are in time and space. I can try to manage that. If that was me, okay, I could try to manage that because that's really important to you, but it's not a character issue or a sin issue. It might be a neurotype issue. It's something I'm working on, a weakness issue. But I get frustrated sometimes because some of the couples we work with want to make like everything a sin or a character issue. And it's like, some of these things are simply differences. And these are things you're going to have to come up with strategies and modifications to get to. And an
easy one is like, on Saturday night, I need to be at church at X. Do you want to go in the same car together? Yes or no? And then you do what you just said.
Right.
Sometimes it's just that easy.
Yeah. And so, sometimes when I'm signing books, I usually say, we've become uniquely us. We hope or pray you become uniquely you. So as you hear the show, and then some things like, people reach out, they write to you, write to me. I get a lot more of the emails, or they write on the website. Even trying to become like Steph and Dan, because like, oh, you're role models, and we want to have a marriage just like yours. It's inspiring. The book is inspiring. Your videos are inspiring. And it's like, well, I'm a uniquely me, Stephanie. Dan's a uniquely him. He's got a neurotype. I have a neurotype, but we have personalities and temperaments and backgrounds and family of origins and faith backgrounds and, all of that stuff that kind of pour into our uniquely us. And, you know, while there was, you know, some trauma A, neglect, abandonment, there's never been trauma B, like, you know, abuse, domestic violence. And in all of our arguments, there's not ever been like verbal abuse or name calling. I mean, there's just certain things we've never done out of the basis of our friendship, which I think has been, you know, part of the foundation or stable factor of our relationship the whole time is friendship.
So all of that to say, I don't think, and it certainly was never any intention of us to think somebody should look like us.
Right.
The goal is, I mean, the whole reason you should read the book and look at the title and say uniquely you and apply that to you. Who am I? Who are you? And let's be you and you together.
Right. Only follow us as we follow Christ, kind of a thing.
So it's a generalization. It's a template of, yes, it's possible. Yes, here's some things you can do. Here's some places you can bend, some places you can hone life, hone yourself, shape who you are from a approach, thinking, character, if that's necessary. But in the end, the goal is to be a better you, such that the two yous put together are a better us.
Right. And I think, too, if you've listened to the show, we talk about our North Carolina marriage and our Georgia marriage, which I was kind of thinking, I think we're like half and half each state now. I think about 2008, 2009. Is that about roughly half was in North Carolina and half from
Georgia? A marriage perspective, we're roughly at half.
Yeah. So in our North Carolina marriage, which is kind of what I call the old marriage, and the Georgia marriage is the new marriage. So parts of that North Carolina marriage was also a lot of parallel play, almost like two lives coexisting in the same family. The girls and I did a lot of stuff that you didn't want to do, like vacations. So we're going to kind of go into moving into how we created a shared experience, because you can look through many of my scrapbooks, which I have, 42 of them, creative memories.
A lot of them.
And we put them in a car and they went everywhere with us when we were out of our home when the tree hit. But there'd be many pictures of the girls and I together, or the girls and I with his mom or my mom, or girls trips, Aunt Amy, or, you know, somebody like that. There was, for a while that wasn't of a value to you. Like missing work was a really big thing. And so I want to kind of talk about that, because a lot of our couples have experiences where the neurodivergent spouse won't take off work in things that should be taking off work. And so we'll kind of talk about the pregnancy in a minute, because you didn't think you could get off work. And that just, what was it then about, I can't tell my employer I need a half a day off to help my wife at the hospital, who's can't take off for vacation, even though you've got 2 or 3 weeks that you're given. That wasn't a value add. I don't know. Talk through it. We've never really had this discussion. So
the best time is right here on camera.
Let's do it right now. We didn't do a walk and plan this time.
Wow. Let's see.
I know one thing you mentioned was that you were trying to save up all that time, I don't know, for some kind of monetary thing. If you never took vacation, then you could keep building. Yeah,
but you've brought up a couple of ideas. So let's talk through each of them.
Okay.
Let's talk through that one, because that'll be simple, I think. So when you are, if your work allows it, you can accrue vacation. Let's say you get 3 weeks a year, and if you don't take it all, you get to bank whatever it is you didn't take.
Which is becoming rare. Usually you have to use it by a certain time.
Well, I don't know if
but back then you could accrue it.
But in this particular role, you could accrue it. So that meant the next year you could get 4 weeks because you banked one. And then the following year, if you didn't use it all, you could bank it. So there was eventually a limit as to how much you could bank. So I don't remember in this particular case what it was, but let's just say you could bank a full 3 weeks. So that meant 1 year you could take 6 weeks of vacation because you had what you were given that year plus what you had banked. In that particular case, because vacation was paid time off, if you exited the company that year, you got paid for your unused vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, and let's skip the idea of vacation actually accruing. Let's say it's all given at the beginning of the year, just to make the math simple. So January 1 comes around, you've got 3 weeks banked, you're given all 3 weeks at the beginning of the year, and you change jobs in March. In March 1, presuming you didn't use any vacation because you were planning that, not only do you get what you're owed as regular pay, you get 6 weeks worth of pay at exit, which is a really handy stack of money.
Mm-hmm. So for perspective, we got married in 1994. We left North Carolina in 2008. There was a lot of vacation banked. There was a lot of vacation banked.
So that's just that was one example of there was an opportunity to, maybe I don't need it right now, but someday I really will, and I can use this to buffer a transition. So that was one. You mentioned when, I think specifically when Sydney was born.
Well, Sydney and Erica. Well, how we handled Erica was because of Sydney.
And I think it helps to know the story there. The doctor said you need to go to the hospital. I was at work. Work
about
was
3:30, 4 o'clock.
Work was 10 miles, so I worked outside of the city. The hospital was about 10 miles in the city, and I was doing something. And it wasn't really, so let's...
You also didn't feel like you could get off work. You didn't feel like you could ask your boss to leave.
No, that's not true.
Oh, that's what you told me then. So, ooh, the real tea's coming out on the camera.
So it wasn't urgent.
Birth wasn't urgent.
Well, you weren't like on the table making a baby.
No.
So there was time. And it wasn't, there was a thing to do. There was plenty of time. I could finish this thing, and then had plenty of time to get to the hospital so that there was a baby. Mm-hmm. The missing piece in that was the us part.
Correct.
So
yes.
So what's not particularly obvious to me at the time was this was one more task. This was like going to get a pizza.
Check. Get wife to hospital in time to have baby.
Right. So clearly you were going to be there in time, because the baby wasn't going to be there before 5. But the point was,
the baby needs to know is working hours.
There wasn't a acknowledgement, knowledge, awareness that being together during the transition from one place to the hospital was, from your perspective, valuable.
Yes, very.
So I learned that on the other side of Sydney, that going to the hospital together was important.
Yes and no. So I called you because I'd gone to the doctor's appointment. Now it's Erica's turn. And I call you. It's about the same time, about 3:30 in the afternoon. And you're like, can it wait for something? Maybe this is the time you didn't feel like you could get off work. And I said, no, I'm on my way. I came to your work and picked you up to go to the second hospital. So I remember Dave and Joe. I walk in and I'm like, where's Dan? And they like point me to you. And I was like, it's time. They're like, Dan, like, come going. He's like, well, and you're like sitting there like, but I could do this and I can do this. Are you sure? And they're like, Dan, it's time. Please leave. Go. So your 2 coworkers are like, hello, wife, pregnant, go. And you're kind of still more like, oh, I need to finish this thing. That's like, at least this time, though, I just came to you and got you to go to the hospital. So you still didn't see it as, I don't think, valuable to be in the car together. I still think you thought,
well, I think you're still playing like this is an on-off switch.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said I learned from the first child to the second child, but I don't think you did. I think it was still like, man, Stephanie's got high expectations to do like in the car together and be there before work. Because you've said on other podcasts, like work ends at 5. So there was still like we shouldn't be leaving until after 5 or something.
Right. But that particular aspect, life took a long time to change your mind.
Yes. So then what happened? So vacation was how we started. Banking stuff. You were into the banking. You didn't have a lot of value for vacation. How did that change? Because, like I said, most of North Carolina, you're not there. It shifts when we go to Georgia.
I think the first spark to change would have been whenever we took the kids to Disney World for the first time.
Okay. I think that's 2005, I think.
Somewhere around in there.
Still live in North Carolina because we had to drive from Charlotte.
And that was just seeing how, I can still see both of them. When we went to the character, that signed the little book thing, I can still see Sydney all excited about Jasmine, and Erica will not stop jumping when she got to Minnie Mouse. Because Minnie Mouse was going to kiss her on the head.
Minnie Mouse was going to kiss me on the head.
Fast forward to maybe 5-ish years later when we go to Alaska together.
Okay.
And that one I can remember. The most prominent memory was 2:00 in the morning on a really cold thing when we went to the fjords. And it was really windy on the top deck. And the kids were huddling together.
That's really
teeth
cool.
Chattering, cold.
Right. And we as Georgians did not even have the right coats to be in Alaska.
When that same trip when we go to the Smoky, what was that thing called? The national park, and they got sworn in as deputy.
Oh, they got to be
rangers.
junior deputies. Yeah. I want to say Juneau, but I'm not 1,000% sure.
It was that kind of idea. Then, fast forward to a couple other trips, and it really started to continue to build on itself. Then you get to, what was that, maybe 2016, when all the family and the kids went to
Wyoming?
No, the one in the cruise.
Oh, the cruise. Yeah, that's 2016.
Wyoming was also another one of those. So each one of those built on the other. And it was, from a family perspective, you and I going was always enjoyable, but the 4 of us, also it's true. I don't have a lot of memory of vacation as a kid. I remember a trip to Disney World. We always went to grandma's, but just, a vacation like what I just described. I don't have memory. Doesn't mean we didn't go. I just don't have memory.
I think they did. I think that was the problem. I think, so what was kind of disappointing at first for me, so if you don't know our story, we grew up in the same church. We met, I was like 10, he's 11, 12, depending on when the year was. And Dan's family did travel, and his dad worked for GE Medical, so he was traveling all the time. He was a world traveler. And so they were doing vacations and doing stuff. And so my family, I'm not going to say we didn't vacation, but my dad was a little more rigid in where he wanted to go. We lived in North Carolina, so we had mountains and we had beaches. We had mountains and we had beaches, and we did do a vacation every year. But it was mountains and beaches and mountains and beaches, which was great. We lived in North Carolina and had that. We had family in Florida, so down to Tampa, Busch Gardens, Disney. And then one time we ventured up to Williamsburg. So from Williamsburg to Tampa and North and South Carolina and Georgia. That was our space. And as a kid, I thought that was great. I had the station wagon, because Dad would not fly. That was part of it. Dad did not fly. And probably I would not have wanted to been on a long road trip with my dad. So, this kind of leads us into the story. Then seeing Dan and his family, when we start dating, I'm like, oh, Dan's going to value travel and Dan's going to value vacation. I did not know how frugal Dan was at the beginning of that. But that kind of takes us into shared experience, that this whole 50 state things that you've heard me talk about if you've watched YouTubes or watched the podcast. It started actually from a bucket list from fourth grade Stephanie. And so if you're maybe my age, a little younger, maybe you don't know that up until 1978, the airline industry was regulated by the government. So in 1978, the Airline Deregulation Act by Carter. So in the 80s, I'm in the fourth grade. I was at a private Christian school that used a Becca program. So I think probably still a Becca program in fourth grade. In the fall semester, you study United States history. And then in the spring semester, you would do your state project. And so, with the Deregulation Act just having happened, my fourth grade teacher, her name was Miss Webb. I don't know what her married name is, but she was Miss Webb. She had said this, and it stuck in my brain. So it's 1980s. She said, under 4% of United States citizens had ever visited all 50 states. The two most unvisited would be Alaska and Hawaii, and that less than 25% of Americans ever leave their region. So essentially what they can drive to. And there was just something in me that was like, I want to do that. I want to visit all 50 states. And, she was with the Airline Deregulation Act. She's like, probably maybe some of this was because the expensive airlines, and her hope, or she thought that, with airlines being deregulated, more people would fly and more people would get to experience the United States, which I looked that up. I wanted to see if her theory was true. And actually it's not. How many people do you think, according to a 2024 survey, how many people have been to all 50 states?
Oh, you told me the answer already.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
what did I say?
6%.
No, 2%. Only 2% have been to all 50 states. The average American has been to how many states?
12.
17. How many think have never left the state that they were born in?
20.
11. And then what percent of Americans have visited 10 or fewer states?
44.
Oh, you were close. 54%. So it doesn't seem like too many people were flying and visiting all 50 states. So fourth grade Stephanie, I know my family, like we're going to do North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. We did Virginia. Oh, we did go over Tennessee because the Smokies, you could get over there. So that was kind of our little range. And so I was like, oh, yay. I did, go to the Southeast region, pretty much, most of it. So I see Dan's family traveling and they go like y'all to New York up to, the falls, right?
Yes. And my aunt and uncle lived in Niagara.
So,
actually, they lived in Rochester.
I had hope that we would travel. Now, in our early years, to be fair, we didn't have a lot of money. So we did the timeshare thing. You want to come to a 3-day, 2-night, listen to a timeshare.
So our early years lasted for at least a decade.
Yes. So there was we didn't have a lot of money. And then 2, it wasn't a value add for you. Even like both of our parents had timeshares, and even you didn't always come with that. Sometimes I went with your parents or went with a mom. So that shift in 2005 when we did Disney, I think you said that's when kind of vacation started to be a little bit of a value add and something to use money and time and resources for.
Right.
So I think, still then we didn't, till we moved to Georgia, life got a little bit better financially for us. And when we got to Georgia and that changed, still there wasn't a lot of opportunity to travel, just how your job worked and the kids and all of that. So it really would you say like the first 7-8 years?
The first really big trip we took was Utah, Yellowstone.
And that was very intentional to hit 4 states?
And it was also the first time we'd ever done 2 weeks away.
Right. So I think I think that was the first time we intentionally, because I think like most people, if when we got married, we're like, we're going to do all 50 states, we would have done it way different.
Yes.
Because the last 4 states was Wisconsin, Delaware, New Mexico, and Oregon. Like, what in the world? And so there's no way to even try to see more than one at a time. But I think that Yellowstone trip was like the first intentional. If we stay here and do this, we can get over this state line, go up here, go across here, get another state.
4 in that trip.
Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. Right. So I at that point, which was about either 2014 or 2015, that's really when we started being intentional about it. And while this was kind of my childhood bucket list, you kind of came on board. I don't know if at first was reluctant, but I think, like, how did it begin to be a shared experience, and all it wasn't necessarily your interest, a coupled shared experience, family shared experience? Like, what shifted for you, for it wasn't just you going along to get along, or this is what Stephanie wants to do, but that you saw it as a value add, relational, family quality time?
Well, probably a couple answers to that question.
Okay.
One is we tended to pick something that had a general appeal to all of us. So if we're going to go
for the family.
Yeah, if we're going to, or if it's just you and me.
Okay.
Either way. Right? There was always, all right, we're going to go to this location, and there's going to be something each person is interested in.
Right.
So let's say I'm interested in
Major League Baseball,
a museum, because when we go there, there's some kind of historical something. Or
I like those too.
Then we go there, and we're going to stay a week, and at least I know that there's that thing on Wednesday that we'll do that's interesting. May not be interesting to anybody else, but like the trailer museum that I still haven't been to.
The trailer hitch museum. That's what it was, right? The trailer hitches.
I think it's just the trailering museum.
Oh.
So it's about how the history.
I think it's in Chattanooga.
But that was true for everybody. We're going to go to this location, and there's something that's going to be valuable. So if it's all 4 of us going, there's something each person is probably interested in, and we'll make a point to see each of those things. If it's just you and I, there'll be. Obviously that's easier to plan because there's less things to figure out. So that's one of them. There was something that was engaging for everybody, so we could go to the most boring place ever, and there was a thing we could go find. But an example, when we went to, I think it was Sydney's wedding, we got there either ahead or behind, and in order to get Minnesota and North Dakota,
wrong timing, but yeah,
the thing, you didn't think it was valuable, but I liked the stone marker in the middle of a field that was the point that Minnesota, North Dakota, and Nebraska or South Dakota.
Sketchiest drive ever.
All, in the middle of this field. It was just this stone marker. We get there. It's unimaginative. It's just a marker. And that was interesting to me. You thought it was beyond boring and needed to do something else to prove that you were actually in all 3 states. That didn't count.
Okay, so we did, when we were driving Sydney to Omaha to move her out there, we hit Illinois and Indiana on the way because one of us had been to Illinois and one of us had been to Indiana and the other hadn't. So we did hit those 2 on the way. Then when she had been there, we went for her birthday later that year. We got there a couple days early. We went up to Sioux Falls and did the 4 things. And then we drove out there again, but I don't think we needed to do anything because it was a wedding. So we were just trying to get there. Because we went through Kansas City.
Yeah, that was on the way home. That was on the way home. We stopped somewhere to eat.
Kansas City, Missouri.
In Kansas City, Kansas, because
we had to get Kansas, right. And I think, so another thing that we tried to do that was interesting. So from 4th grade perspective, Stephanie, what the teacher wanted us to do was, different regions may have different foods or different beverages or different spots the locals hang out in. Kind of the thought was, you can't hate someone if you meet them. So get out there, meet people, talk with people that are different from you. And so some of the really cool things that we started incorporating towards, the last half of this was, we're going to eat barbecue ribs in Memphis. We're going to get lobster in Maine. We're
Right.
going to get
What is the thing that place is known for?
New Orleans food, Louisiana food, Gulf shrimp in Mississippi. So, and talking to the locals, like even here in Oregon.
When we went to the Galligator Farm. And,
went to the Alligator Shreveport, maybe?
No, that was actually that restaurant sitting over the.
Oh, that was Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even here in Oregon, like we were sitting out at the coast and we didn't even plan too much for an agenda because we just kind of came and locals said, hey, you should do this or you should do that.
And they gave us an idea of what to do that day, just engaging with the guy that was walking his dog that day.
Right. Which kind of leads us to where we're at right now, which we want to talk about. We are in Hood River, Oregon at Thistledown on Oak, which is kind of a cool story. Last year, I was reached out to. They don't want to be named, but they are a neurodiverse Christian couple. And this neurodiverse Christian couple had found us, I guess, through the podcast and said, hey, we have a boutique hotel. And I looked it up and I was like, oh man, that's nice. That's amazing, which we're sitting in right now. And they're like, yeah, you should come out and see it. We'll host you and all that. And I was like, where are you at? And he's like, Oregon. I was like, wow, sweet. That's one of the states we hadn't been in. So, that was an offer. I really didn't think it would come to fruition, to be honest. Not that I thought the people were dishonest. I was just like, things happen and, it might not work out. And you would never want to hold someone like, well, you told me, you said we can come out there. But it ended up working out. And this place is, amazing. So, as I talk a little bit about it, if you're, on the YouTube, some of the pictures hopefully will be coming up, but this has been an experience of almost like living in a museum.
Yes.
As you can see behind us, this is just one example of one of the rooms. So we got a backstage tour. And so one of the things, with the couple, the guy who is neurodivergent, his ability to see things and space things and, the collections, and they, pick it out and design it. And the wife puts in the soft lines and they, do all these things together. But, every room is just magnificent. So this is a boutique hotel. So a couple important things means no children under the age of 18. So this is not a family style visit as a family. This is, business or romantic or, maybe mother, daughter, sisters, you want to kind of come up here. What's big out here in Hood River is windsurfing. So we went out there yesterday and watched, some of the windsurfers.
It was too cold.
Did I say we did it?
No, I just wanted to.
Okay, yeah, we watched. I was like, wait a minute, did I say we did it?
Watched because the wind was really strong, the water was crazy cold, and it was just cold in general.
And then out there is the Columbia River Valley. So we're up here by the Columbia River Valley. Across the river is Washington State. So we came into Oregon, started out at the coast, went to Starfish Cove, went into Corvallis, met some of the coaches that we've had on the show, Jana and Barb, met them in person, and then came up here to Hood River. And so this place is amazing. It's, again, owned and operated by a neurodiverse Christian couple. So if you're out here in Oregon, if you're doing the 50-state quest or you want to get up to Hood River, this is an excellent place to come. More in progress. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 rooms that are completed. There's 2 in process, and then there's some idea and vision. But every room has its own unique theme, art. And we were just saying today, every time we turn around in this room, we find something new, a different kind of artifact, piece of art. It's just a special touch. Is like, whoa, I hadn't seen that here before. Been here 4 days. We're still finding new things. It's like a treasure hunt. I think they refer to it as Edwardian, the Edwardian era. But look that up. Thistledown on Oak. Look at these pictures that are hopefully coming up on YouTube. So it's been amazing. So thank you, Neurodiverse Christian Couple podcast listener, for hosting us here, at this glorious, wonderful, boutique hotel. So as we kind of started off at the beginning, Uniquely Us is unique to us. And for you as a neurodiverse Christian couple, if you're listening, part of your goal is to find your treasure, to find your unique places. And it doesn't mean to say that Dan and I don't get on each other's nerves still sometimes. We still do things that are aggravating. We still have to do things that are like not the way I would want to do it. We defer to each other, kind of depending on whose lane It is, and it's still kind of an evolving thing. We're certainly not wanting to say we've got it down pat and perfect.
And I don't even think that's the goal. I think if you're after perpetual harmony, you're after the wrong thing. I think if you're after quality conflict resolution,
right,
I think you're actually after the right thing. What is true is that I think conflict is dismissed as negative and not constructive, and proper conflict is incredibly constructive.
Right, resolving and repairing conflict.
It's not even so. Let's change conflict from just being negative because somebody did wrong and there's no repair to be had. It's just a difference of opinion. That level of working out the difference of opinion and perhaps even remaining in one's original respective opinion, but learning to live with that and being okay that we had a conversation and your opinion on it didn't change. In my opinion, it didn't change. But we understand more about what's true about that is more constructive than people give it credit for.
Yeah. When I was working on my conflict resolution, I think they call it like a master's certification. It was my specialty when I was working on my doctorate. That was kind of how they pulled the class. It's like, is conflict good or bad? And essentially it kind of came down to kind of the same analogy I've used in couples work for a long time is a baseball bat good or bad? If I beat you upside the head with it, the use of it was bad. If I use it to hit a ball, the use of it was good. But the baseball bat in and of itself is a neutral item. It's how I use it. And if I'm using it for what it was meant to be used for. And so having man and woman means you're going to have some different perspectives. And
having
then
you and anyone else means
right.
You're going to have different
you and anyone else means you are set up for a potential conflict or disagreement. And so conflict, disagreement doesn't have to be about disrespect. They're disrespecting me because they don't believe it or see it the same way I do. It is part of having those two ideas or perspectives, either coming up with a third perspective or valuing a perspective, because you sometimes have to make a decision that is going to prefer one person's perspective. Is that always the same person? If it is, that's not healthy. That's not reciprocal. That's not mutual. So figuring that out, because it's not happy wife, happy life, or happy, it's more happy house, happy spouse, happy, I don't know. It's not just making one person happy. It's not just making the neurodivergent person. If we don't do this, he's going to get upset and we can't have him upset. Well, I've got to always defer to her because she's the neurotypical and she's always the one. It's right because it's the neurotypical way. Breaking out of those ideas and those patterns are really important. If the goal is mutuality, mutual respect, sometimes you defer to each other depending on the lane and building the relationship that works for you. That is God honoring, healthy, right. And resolving conflict, because conflict in and of itself isn't bad. A disagreement isn't bad. And somebody started a myth, I guess a decade ago, that you should never let your children see you disagree. And that's crazy. Where else do your children learn how to disagree, resolve conflict, and love each other in a Christ-like way and repair? We have a whole generation of people who don't know how to have two different political views without needing a safe space or canceling somebody because they don't believe the way they do. So we need to teach our kids how to have disagreements and different points of view and still be loving and kind and still hold to their perspective. And where I think the home and the marriage and the family, not everybody has the same opinion.
Right, and we go back to the beginning. It's the difference between unity and sameness.
Right.
Right, we're not after sameness, we're after unity.
We're not Borg.
Right.
All right, anything else you want to say as we're kind of ending our podcast today?
No.
So I do want to say, since this is coming out in July, we had this great kind of, I don't want to say conglomeration, that sounds weird, connection in June. Sometimes we do theme months. Sometimes we're like just recording and sticking stuff out there. But June had a lot to do with neuroscience, neurotheology. So that's a great month to go back and listen to all 5. One of my favorites, Just the Guys, came out recently. If a fish can fly, you can learn empathy. That was a great discussion. So if you didn't hear that one, find that one in the catalog. We're going to have some other theme months. It's either August or September. We're doing a complete look at sexual addiction and the crossover as to why sex and porn addiction is so high in neurodivergent people. And then we're going to also have another like attachment focused month in October with Dr. Wilder and Holzclaws and I forgot some of the other names, but it's all going to be attachment based.
Sure, Gil is in there.
Gil is in there for Just the Guys, right? That's when you had him on. So those are some upcoming months. And then our classes should be open. So we're going to have Uniquely Us. So Dan will lead a men's group and I'll lead a women's group. And then the second one we're doing is Escaping Enemy Mode. So if either one of you says something like, they always treat me like the enemy, or it seems like we're already in adversary mode, or we just can't seem to disagree, we're going to learn about relationship circuits, how to turn your relationship circuits on, the 3 types of enemy mode, simple enemy mode, stupid enemy mode, intelligent enemy mode. And if you're in enemy mode, how do we get out of parallel lives and being in conflict, learning how to do that with our relationship circuits on. Dan also does the men. I do the women. That's coming up this fall too. So go to the website, ChristianNeurodiverseMarriage.com, contact, and you can inquire about the class. If you want to look a little bit more about what the classes are about, that's www.holmesasr.com. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for those of you who've been celebrating and following my 50 states. Dan still has one more to go, but I've done all 50 states. And I think we're going to be doing Major League Baseball parks next. Is that your bucket list?
I believe that's probably what's next.
All right. Well, we'll be kind of talking about that. So we always like to remind you that there's hope for your future and
you're not alone on the journey.